Mars Volta were a band from El Paso in Texas. They existed from 2001 to 2012. They have variously been described as experimental rock, progressive metal even. They're somewhat crossing several genre boundaries and not quite meeting any genre expectations, actually. Their driving force was a guy called Omar Rodriguez Lopez, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, who wrote most of the songs. The guy Cedric Bixler Zavala was their vocalist, who was the other mainstay. There are a lot of other members who came and went, including one of theirs, I think it was Omar's brother, who was the drummer for a while. They've got a fairly complex history. There was a period after they broke up where these two main guys weren't talking to each other, but apparently they're now back in business in 2022.
Hi, my name's Dan, and this is a new release review of this album by the Mars Volta, which is their 9th studio album. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of the album because I'm just going to embarrass myself, I think, if I do that. Most of the reviews on my channel are not new releases. In fact, I'm working my way through a list of the 3,000 greatest albums of all time, according to an amalgamated critics list that has been put together at a website called Acclaim Music. And I'm about a third of the way through, going from 3,000 up to 1, and who knows if I'll ever get there. If this sounds like something that you'd be interested in joining this journey, just subscribe and click the things that mean you get notifications. We've got a great little community going on this channel. Why not come and join us? Let's do this album, though. So, as I said, it's the 9th studio album. Obviously, it's my first time listening to it. I have come across the Mars Volta before. There are some of their albums I've really enjoyed and really rated, which is why I picked this one to do a new release review for. But I have to say, I nearly decided not to actually record this review as I was starting to think about writing the notes for it, which I have in front of me. You can't see them because they're on my screen. I just found it hard to know what to make of it and wondered how I was going to describe it. So I did decide I am going to do the review. Obviously, here I am. But bear with me. I will try and do this. So I'll try and do description first, because that's my first problem. So a lot of people seem to categorize the Mars Volta as prog rock, progressive rock. And I think maybe at times that kind of fits, but actually on this album, for quite a bit of it, I would say, I wouldn't say, broadly speaking, that this album is prog rock. Bear with me, because it's too different. So prog rock now has become quite a formulaic thing. Back in when it first emerged, back in the late 60s, early 70s, there were lots of different varieties of prog rock around, lots of different interesting things done. And it was truly progressive in that it was pushing the boundaries and doing some different interesting things. Fast forwards to the 21st century, and it's still around, and there's some really good playing and some really good albums out there. But it feels like it's slipped into a kind of formula of this is what progressive rock is, and how you define that. This doesn't fit within that formula. So it's, if you like, progressive with a small p rather than progressive with a big P, which is why I've labelled it as experimental, because I think that's probably a better description at the moment. It's definitely breaking new ground. It is complex at times, and it's unusual. It mixes lots of different influences in here. Particularly, I'm going to say there's Latin stuff in here, especially with the percussion and some of the vocal sounds. There's some early on in the album, at various points, I'd say some modern R&B, and by that I mean kind of pretty, very modern stuff, I would say. Seems to be an influence here. It's not a thing that I'm generally a huge fan of, but they've got it in. And then there's kind of just other eclectic things. It's a bit like the way that Bjork has gone, in that it is just experimental. It refuses to be nailed down. There's quite often a lot of stuff going on. My experiences so far with the Mars Volta is that this is a normal thing. It's part of what they do is complexity in terms of how much is going on at once, as well as in terms of strange rhythms and um, shifting between different things and interesting harmonic structures and things like that. Sometimes it's discordant, sometimes it's kind of janky and things pulling against each other. There's definitely some jazz influences in there, I'd say, at points, maybe even some hip hop influences in there. And there's some unusual production techniques going on here as well. Um, I particularly like the singing. It's quite high, generally insensitive. The other thing that I particularly enjoyed was the bass. So I hear bass more than I think the average person does because I do play bass myself. They have a new bassist, Josh Morrow. There's some nice work in here that made me go, yeah, that's good. So this is where I get to the second problem. I'll try to do some description. I have no idea if that's going to give you a decent idea of what it is because I'm not sure it's possible to do that in a few minutes. Um, my second problem is what do I think of it? And this is a problem, is because I don't really know. I'm not sure what to make of it. I, yeah, at this stage, I would say I definitely like it enough to give a mid sevens score. But I feel like I can't really give a proper idea until I've done more listens. And I've just done it in the same way that I do all my other reviews. I've done 2 listens and other little bits of listening whilst I'm doing the notes. To do any more would mean that I would get bogged down and wouldn't be able to produce these reviews. I'd then end up making them longer and it would be an entirely different thing. I'm definitely about making mini reviews. So, sorry, album. I feel like I can't do you justice properly in just 2 listens. I think that does say that I found it not to be immediately accessible. It might be a grower, but it might go the other way. It might be I could kind of listen to it a few times and then go, you know what, I don't like this as much as previous Mars Volta albums, but I don't really know. And I find it a little bit unsatisfying to get to this point and say, I don't really know, but that's how I feel about this album. And I'm not going to pretend I feel otherwise because it is how I feel. So that's what I think of this album. Please, if you know this album, if you've had a listen, give me a comment to say what you think of this album. I'd love input from other people on this. If you don't know it and you think it might be an interesting thing to try, have a listen. It's easy enough. I'm gonna give you some streaming links in the description. I almost always do. So have a quick cheeky listen to this, and then leave me a nice insightful comment that'll help me work out what this album's all about. Because I'm a little bit lost here. That's it from me for now.